Welcome to Count Me In. In this episode, I sit down with John Glasgow, founder, CEO, and CFO of Campfire, about how modern finance teams are being transformed through innovation and AI-powered ERPs. John shares his personal journey from finance executive to entrepreneur, revealing how his own frustrations with legacy systems fueled the creation of Campfire. The conversation covers the importance of prioritization, the challenges of scaling a company, and why today's finance leaders need to embrace new technology, especially Gen AI, to stay ahead. If you're interested in actionable insights on automating finance tasks, leading change, and building resilient teams in a fast evolving landscape, this episode is for you. Tune in for a grounded, inspiring look at the future of finance from someone who's building it every day. Let's get started. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Excited to have you here. Excited to have a conversation talking about finance teams and ERPs and stuff you're working on. But I wanted to start the conversation just, maybe we can get to know you a little bit more. You're running a company, you're a dad, you do a lot of different things. And what's it like kind of being a founder, and a family man and trying to juggle all those things every day?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Adam, thanks again for having me on. Really excited to be here. Yeah, being a parent, fun fact, my oldest daughter is the same age as Campfire. So I kind of took on a lot in the summer of 23. I would say the biggest thing I've learned, even when I was a finance exec or now as a founder, which is like being a being a parent, a lot of people say, how is it like physically possible? But learning ruthless prioritization, I think has been incredibly important. And then learning how to survive on even less sleep. And so I'd say like even last night, one of my little ones got up at 3 a.m. And so there's a lot of overnight wake ups as I think all the parents out there are aware of. But it's really like, what is the best use of my time and how can I just like maximize value, whether it's at home or whether it's in the workplace, has been incredibly helpful for me to have that mindset. And just as an executive, especially as we've scaled at Campfire, that mindset has been incredibly valuable.
Can we can we dig into that mindset a little bit more, because
Yeah.
it's not easy to kind of build that foundation in a home or in a workplace? And how did you kind of work to build that, lay that foundation to kind of have that mindset, because you want to give it to your employees as well to make sure that they're using the best use of their time too?
Yeah. I would say it's funny. Our head of marketing has a sticky on her desk, and it's a quote I shared with her once, which is, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. And so I think just this phrase of like, it has to be like a super high conviction yes to move forward on anything. And then I frequently ask the team, which I ask myself, which is, if I only had 1 hour of time for the week, what would I do in that 1 hour? And then why don't I actually just go focus on that? Like, clearly, that is the most important thing. I think the other
Mhm.
one is during Y Combinator, the startup accelerator, for those that aren't familiar, they have 10 founders sit in a circle and you have to say your commitment, like a group of people that have to like keep each other honest and you commit to the group. And then kind of 1 or 2 weeks later, depending on the cadence, like you go back and you're like, did you hit your goal that you committed to the group? And so these accountability circles, they found to be incredibly helpful. And we still do that today. So we're
Hmm.
much larger than back then, but literally the whole company is here in San Francisco. So we're able to go in one massive circle at HQ and everybody says what they're going to do for the week. And I tell them this is really the only thing that matters for you right now. And so I think like hitting that goal, whether it's writing it down for a week, for a day, to my family, I think just like incredible clarity on what's important will allow you to like understand what's signal versus noise.
That's super important, because a lot of times in corporate structures, you set a goal at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, you look at that goal and say, "Yes, I did it," or "I didn't do it." But a lot of times, goals are moving so much faster than that. Is there a certain cadence that you got? Do you just do weekly goals and say, "What am I doing this week?"
We do weekly, and then they roll up to monthly, they roll up to quarterly. Um,
Gotcha.
I was talking to a CFO at a public company the other day, and he's like, I was talking to someone that 180 KPIs at the company, and it's like obviously the letter K is not really like nothing's really key at a 180, and so then it's just like, how do we have 1 to 3 KPIs? Everything rolls up to that. And then we have micro goals that allow us to get there. At Invoice to Go, it was a Series C scale up. one thing I learned reporting to our CEO, Mark, was you need to really have like a rally moment that so we were doing through this big relaunch of the product, and you need like a realistic but tight kind of goal that the whole company can rally around. And whether it's like a big milestone going into a fundraise, or whether it's a big product launch, or whether it's just something big, really rallying people around it and really building a culture around it and really keep everyone focused on that kind of one launch moment or one launch KPI or whatever it may be, allows folks to essentially do things that maybe they didn't know was feasible from like a pace or from a quality perspective.
Yeah. Well, and you're setting the tone at the top, so it kind of gets everybody involved as opposed to, feeling like you're alone in your goals and what you're working on.
Yeah. What's funny here is like whatever is the most important thing, I'll go sit with that team. So we had a huge new
Yeah.
feature go live yesterday. I just sat down with the team doing QA, testing the feature before go live, and I was just QAing with them. You know, quality assurance for folks, QA, and it's just like as an executive, I obviously need to push a lot down, but whatever the
Mhm.
most important thing is, I need to make sure everybody's aware how important it is to them. Otherwise, they're not going to always fully appreciate that.
So I love asking this question, to people who are founders who started organizations. Why did you what what were you trying to solve when you're like, hey, I need to build this company. I need to build this new solution for people.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite simple. I was a finance executive, and our ERP, we were really, really not happy with our ERP.
Hmm.
Once we got acquired for 625 million, it was like, why is there no modern ERP? Like, why is nothing else out there? I kind of went on this like tour, trying to find something for us, and there wasn't anything out there. So this is really, Campfire is just solving my own pain. I mean, it's as simple as that. And so it's been fun solving my own pain, and we're obviously on Campfire, and so I kind of continue to solve my own pain, and a lot of the roadmap is just based on our internal use of Campfire.
That seems so simple when you say that, and I feel like there's more to the story, but it could be that simple. I feel like sometimes there's so many new softwares coming out there all the time. And so, why does the world need another ERP? I guess that's another question to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, in the mid-market lower enterprise, there were two things that I
Mm,
saw. Everything in the finance stack had turned over except the general ledger. There's been incredible innovation in the finance stack on EP, payroll,
yeah.
HRIS in the last 10 years. The general ledgers, the two market leaders are from the 90s. And so I think just like very outdated software is the pain that I experienced. It was really my kind of seminal moment. The other one was the company we sold to, it still is the largest accounts payable solution in the market, Bill.com. And we were the largest partner for a lot of the general ledgers, and saw firsthand, like as a partner, that the pain I felt was being felt at scale across our 500,000 businesses that were customers. And so did a lot of digging there, and saw that like this was just very thematic, and widespread. And then once I said, gosh, why is there no modern GL with everything's turned over but the core? Everyone needs a
Yeah.
modern core to build around. Then Gen AI had just started to take off. And OpenAI was kind of 6 months in on their infamous ChatGPT 3, and saw the ability to, the prior generation of ERPs took everybody from on-prem into the cloud, but all of the
Mm,
workloads were still very manual. And so I saw an opportunity to take everybody from cloud to AI. And so not just a modern interface, the original thesis, but this kind of rapidly evolving second thesis was like, how do we take the transactional accounting? How do we take, everyone's sitting in spreadsheets, editing the Y and X axis on a chart. How do we
yeah.
take the kind of preparation of financial analysis and reporting, and we unlock all of that for the end user, and they can focus on more strategic work. And this big thesis that corporate finance and accounting is going through a fundamental shift in terms of the activities the team is going to be doing. So, like at Adobe, I was on the finance team. We spent weeks preparing like LTV to CAC by product line. So, like lifetime value to cost of acquisition as like a ratio we were closely measuring. And it took so long to prepare. By the time we did the analysis, it was quite limited in terms of executing on the analysis. There was a lot to execute on. So it's how do we truncate the preparation of the analysis and elongate or extend the actual like delivery, and that's an area that AI is not going to replace, right, Adam? It's
Yeah.
like going and meeting with the CMO, going and meeting with the VP of sales, like delivering and executing on the financial output, not just the what happened, but like what do we do about it? And
Hmm.
so I think for me, it was like we can now unlock. A lot of our customers are coming to us and saying, for the first time, I have the capacity to go focus on what do we do about it. And to me, as a fellow finance peer, that's been incredibly I've been incredibly honored to hear feedback like that from our customers.
That's amazing because a lot those pain points when you talk to different finance teams, those are a lot of pain points that you hear from a lot of different folks, especially all different no matter the size of the business. Do you think that, a lot of times there's especially in the finance team, the resources will go elsewhere first. How do you kind of break through that? Well, I've always been using, that software since the 90s and it's worked well. It's not broken. Why should I fix it? How do you have that conversation with somebody?
I'll say, Adam, the early days were incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
uh, I mean, we were just a few people, and I was convincing finance teams to move on, to move to a early stage startup that no one had heard of.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, candidly, they were just believing in me. They were just like,
Mm.
you're a fellow finance person. You come from the category. This is your third, finance software company you've been at. If there's anyone that's going to solve it, it's a peer like me that deeply understands the pain. I think that was the real early days, call it first 50 customers. But then we started to see particularly with Gen AI kind of thesis two, I articulated earlier that what was deemed safe was like a good thing 3 years ago that's now went from
Mm.
like feature to a bug. And that safety means it's not a Gen AI product. And been this big mandate from the executive and even board level of like driving AI transformation. And so then it's like, well, the old school way of doing things is not inherently not modern or Gen AI native. So a lot of folks are coming to us and saying, you're the only Gen AI ERP we've been able to find that actually like is showing real transformation for its customers. And that then really switched. There was a light switch of like we then need new. And so it was like we've had this incredible tailwind. And over the summer we announced, 100 million in capital that we've raised because it's this sheer kind of market pull that we have felt that really is only within the last year or two.
And as other SaaS companies start, adding the Gen AI to their softwares, how do you kind of keep up with, the day to day as, there's so many new things being thrown at you every day, especially with, the agentic AI and all those things that are coming out as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, even at the model level, I mean, we saw like Gemini 3 just dropped and then OpenAI
Yeah.
just came out with a new one. I mean, for those that are popping popcorn and following the frontier model wars, it's been incredible. We decided to do something a little unique and launch our own frontier model. So we actually
Okay.
went multi-model at Campfire. Here in San Francisco, we have AI engineering where it's called a large accounting model instead of language model because it's purely trained on accounting data for our actual intended use case. And we're still using the frontier models. I consume a lot of content, a lot of news in the car. I'll listen to podcasts in bed. I'll read a lot of the publications as when the kids wake me up and I can't fall back to sleep. I'll cruise through some Wall Street Journal articles or the information. But I would say beyond that, customers are great at letting us know what's important to them, and so we'll hear from them like, hey, we're on this model or we're using AI in a certain way, like, we would like you to partner or integrate. And so that's a huge driver of our roadmap as well.
I'm sure it keeps you on your toes because every day there's a new article, somebody's releasing some new thing, or there's some new element that's coming out. But I'm sure you have to take the time to test and make sure everything's working properly before you can integrate or do all those things. What is that like as you're trying to build a modern tech stack and try to keep up with everything?
Yeah. I mean, look, we just launched like a lease accounting subledger, and that was a lot of customers were raising their hand and saying, "Hey, we really want to get us spreadsheets." So I think,
Yeah.
anything that's still being done in spreadsheets for transactional, like for any sort of repetitive task, I think spreadsheets will always be here. I've spent way too many years myself in spreadsheets.
Yeah.
The ad hoc request, the one-off, the custom, the board wants a swag, 2026 number in a different scenario for M&A. That'll always, to me be in a spreadsheet. But if your subledgers are being maintained, if your kind of weekly reporting is constantly being updated in a spreadsheet, that, we tell customers, tell us about that and we want to ship
Hmm.
that. So for us, from a product velocity, we ship, call it three-ish new things a week. Some are big, some are small.
Yeah.
Very, very customer driven here. And again, we are a customer, but then we also have to come up with things that no one's asking for. So we launched our own like close management product. Nobody was
Mm.
asking that. Like no one said, "Hey, I want you to build close." It had never been in the ERP before, but we decided there was unique opportunity to run the entire close in the ERP, and so we kind of brought that to market as an innovation, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. And so it's a bit about. I mean, we whiteboard a lot here at headquarters. Customers tell us, and then just consuming a lot of content. I think the last thing I'll say on the frontier model side, there's a lot of ways to test the new models when they come out. And I think the benchmarks, we don't overly follow the benchmarks too much, because I think a lot of the models are now gaming the model for the
Yeah.
benchmark, because that's become such a
Yeah.
focus. We run our own internal evaluations. And so to your question, there's just like a lot of internal work done to evaluate, but it can be a lot sometimes, because to your point, there's just so much going on.
There is so much going on. How do you say your internal accounting team uses this software as well? What's it like having, your own internal employees being a customer as well? And how does that build up? Are they able to test things for you? Like, do you get instant feedback? What does that look like?
Yeah, we definitely get instant feedback. We're the hardest on ourselves of any of the vendors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the feedback really goes straight into the roadmap. But I would also say, what's funny is in the early days, the product was quite rudimentary. Now it's gotten quite mature, but of course, it's always still getting better. The I would say that the product is actually it's gotten mature faster than Campfire has as a company.
Mm,
So in a way of like, it can easily support companies much larger than ourselves.
mhm,
And so we still give a lot of internal feedback, but it has shifted more to be from the customer, because a lot of them have, like, we're in every continent today. Um,
mm,
and so like internally we can't test some of the, localization, for example. Some customers have inventory now, like we don't have inventory here. So it's shifted a bit on where the feedback comes from, but we're always looking to that point of like, well, no one's asking for this, but we should do it. A lot of that comes from our own internal use.
sure. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I love that you can connect with them, but you're right. You don't always have the best use case in house, especially if you're just a software company and each organization is different. Do you think that certain sizes of business are better for like an AI driven ERP such as your own? Like, are there certain industries that work better in this type of thing, or is it kind of agnostic to whatever industry you're in?
Yeah, I would say the early adopters have, excuse me, primarily coming from software businesses. And so,
Yeah.
ironically, a lot of the fastest growing AI companies like Replit or Decagon are customers. And so they turn to us and say, we want to be AI native as an internal tech stack. And so I think their end product being AI, they have this like kind of full, we are AI throughout the company. And so I think they've just been early and really innovating with us on the sharp end of the spear. So I'd say mid-sized to lower enterprise software has been the most, but we have companies like Boom Arrow that's building airplanes, Mach 1 airplanes on Campfire. And so we see the Replit doing vibe coding to Boom Arrow building airplanes. Really, the full spectrum is on Campfire, and it's been fun to play a small part in their success.
So being such a young company, where do you kind of see yourself going in the next, 5 to 10 years, especially, with rapidly changing environments and so many different moving parts in the industry.
Yeah, I think about that one every day. I would say continuing to support larger businesses, particularly given organically our customers are growing and like just net new customers are
Yeah.
larger going live on the platform. Supporting more industries is certainly a focus. So there's some, industry specific functionality, whether it's an integration or whether it's something natively within Campfire, and then better global support. So, like, yes, we're in every continent, but we're not in every country. And I think more localized compliance. You think of like, well, we just we had a company on site this week and they're like, we're in 174, we have 174 subsidiaries in 85 countries. And so I think, it doesn't need to be like we're supporting a local company in the region. It's a, similar San Francisco based company to us, but they're just so global that we
Mhm.
really need to be global for even just a US based company.
When I can imagine how challenging that can be, especially laws change from country to country and having to make sure that you're in compliance. But, obviously, because there's so many different things that you have to evaluate when working with a multinational organization.
Yeah, we go really deep with their auditors, their tax
Yeah.
team, the local in region teams. For example, in India, it requires local daily cloud data backup, and so we now have that. So it's been enjoyable for me to learn, but learning about all sorts of localized laws throughout the world.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. So, we've been talking about, all some of the great things that you're doing, some of the things you're seeing. But let's say somebody's listening to this conversation, they're like an FP&A leader, they're CFO, they're kind of evaluating different technologies. What are some red flags they should look for as they're evaluating different companies, and what are some things they should be looking for? Maybe you can like look at both of those things.
Yeah. Well, we really look for folks that there is a bit of change management. I mean, doing the old
Hmm.
way of things and the new way. For example, bank reconciliations typically in a mid market ERP can be quite manual, reconciling cash. And we start out by having Gen AI take a pass at the full task. And
Mm,
then so the human, like, here's the three areas that it's not rule based, it's true Gen AI. So, like, human level synthesis, here's the three transactions it was not able to reconcile for you. So, I think for folks that are ready to embark on a different way of doing things is certainly part of the journey. But I think folks that are candidly looking to offload a lot of the transactional accounting.
mm,
And like I mentioned earlier, like um, folks that are tired of manually doing financial analysis and really want to focus on like strategic work, that's where we've seen folks see the most value of moving to Campfire because we've been so helpful in automating the transactional. Um, from like things to consider, I would say that it's definitely a good one. Um, I mean, we want to make sure there's a fit from an integration, from an ecosystem, from a country coverage, and also from any industry specific nuances. I think we just, again, like most has been in software to date, although we're in every industry today. We just really want to make sure there's a fit. And so, talking to our team, we're just very candid about what we can and can't do to ensure there's a happy path for both sides.
yeah. But what about like red flags? Like let's say they have four software companies just like yours, and then they're evaluating. What are things that if they see this, like, hey, turn and run, don't go that way.
So, one thing we have seen is like a lot of people will demo AI,
Hmm.
but the AI is not actually real. And so we do encourage people to actually get a sandbox or do a POC. ERP is like a mission critical decision, and it's a lot of work to go live. So we're very forthcoming with Campfire environments and sandboxes for prospective
Mm,
customers. And they often get in and they use our AI to automate a task or to even just query their data, like writing an accrual with AI and Campfire. We put in a bunch of sample data for them. They don't need to share anything sensitive, and they can actually go through the workflows themselves and see the AI is actually transforming how work is done. I think we've gone into evaluations where competitors have shown compelling AI, but in reality, it was not actually compelling.
mm,
And so I think just really do your diligence. There's a lot of demoware, they call it, in AI right now from legacy incumbents and from new providers both. that we just really encourage folks to like go use the AI yourself, or just go kind of really use the product yourself before signing. That's actually been one of the best ways we've been able to win more deals. Is just like we're super transparent. You can go use
Yeah.
it. Everything we demo to you actually works, is actually in production today. And then we're very forthcoming with customer reference calls. Being a newer provider, just about everybody talks to an existing customer on Campfire before they sign, and they can just really get comfortable with the customer experience.
That's cool being able to offer that because I know sometimes, the organizations like say, "Hey, this is a good person." They'll say good things about us, but you want somebody who's gonna be honest and say the ups and downs because not every solution is perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you and your team, talk to finance teams all the time. And if there was a message you could give the finance team to say, "Hey, these are some things you could be doing today to make your jobs better, to make your jobs easier," what would that be to kind of help push them in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, this one is a bit overhyped at the moment, but certainly start to think about going on your AI journey. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
say it enough. I do think this is similar to from an on-prem to a cloud transition. And it's going to be a lot of work. It's scary. Totally understand finance data is very sensitive. Do your diligence on security and privacy and confidence in the system. But ultimately, I think folks that are able to, we're starting to see a lot of finance and accounting teams get hired and they're looking for what's called like a systems forward individual
Mm,
or like an AI forward individual, because there's quite a bit of a mandate right now on G&A, call it, like the supporting functions within a company. There's a big task of like not hiring a lot of headcount. And so if you can be the one that can not still deliver the quality and accuracy expected of the team, but like not hire a lot of headcount, that really differentiates you in the market relative to peers. So start to just setting Gen AI aside, just start to think about how do we automate tasks. Um, there's like this saying in engineering that like sometimes the laziest engineer is the best engineer because they find a way to like automate all the tasks because it's like they're inherently lazy. So I think have the lazy mindset. If there's something you do every week by hand as a finance and accounting professional, the former controller at OpenAI is one of our investors. And after every close, going into the next close, she would push each member of the team and said, what is the task that took the longest in the last close? And go find a way to speed it up. And whether it's software, whether it's find some way to speed it up. And then in the next close, um, continuously iterate on your own processes and tasks. So that's really my advice is don't be static, be dynamic. And whether
mhm.
it's Gen AI or something else, just kind of constantly be learning and innovating and pushing the boundary. Those are the folks that are again moving into more of that strategic role. And when you're the one helping the company grow faster or save money, you're going to get hired. You're going to get promoted. You're gonna see the reward of that. The expectation of just closing the books and moving on to the next month, it seems to be the expectations are evolving a bit. And so that's my advice.
They are evolving a bit. And maybe you could speak on this just real quick, just how do you help your team get to that mindset? Because what you're speaking to like individuals who see that and want to go, but what if you have a team of people and you want to inspire them to do the same thing because you want to upskill your team and have them grow as well?
Yeah. Well, one that was fascinating is I see a lot of CFOs and accounting teams publish like an AI memo or AI policy for their team. And I think if
Hmm.
you're not driving clarity, then people are going to default on the more conservative approach. So, how can you introduce AI? When is it acceptable? How do you go from like
Hmm.
testing or playing around with it to into production for like live tasks? Like building a framework for actually putting it in, encouraging even failure. Like a founder, you need to encourage failure on the team for AI because, again, not all AI is going to end up working for every task. So I think establishing that like call it founder mindset and also giving folks the mandate to actually go do so. So I talked to a CFO the other day that says once a month I have an hour for the whole finance function, and everybody or at least a few folks demo how they've used AI in their role. Or I've seen another one like an AI hackathon. There's an hour block that everybody has to try and offload one task to AI. And so I think like just encouraging that like this is where we're going. Some folks have gone a step further. And so they've put in hiring rubrics, they've put in performance reviews. Are you leveraging AI, scoring people on their AI usage? I think these are things that I saw here on the engineering team is critical, on sales is critical here. And it's really starting to work its way through finance and accounting at this point.
I think it's awesome, kind of putting it in the framework of the organization and allowing people that space to do things, but not being afraid to like, hey, it might not work the first time, and that's okay. But you learn from it and you grow and you keep going. And I think that's counterculture, what your typical corporate culture is like. And so I love this push to do that. And I think all organizations should be thinking that way.
Yeah. I mean, the constant thing I hear from finance and accounting teams is the AI makes errors, and so I can't trust it. Humans make errors, right? And so it's like, as a former finance leader, I would never send a slide to the board without asking for the financial model and actually going through the model myself. When you use AI, treat it like any other human on your team. You're responsible for its work. You need to check its work. You need to take ownership of its work. Maybe just like any other individual, like you hire them on week 1. If they get something wrong, you wouldn't fire them. You would give them feedback. You would learn how to work with them. And by month 6, maybe you're spending less time on their financial models. Similarly with AI, we give it feedback. We work with it. We review its work. We take ownership. But ultimately, if you're using it right, everyone on the team gets a bit of a promotion, right? There's like another layer under you. Instead of data entry, you're reviewing the work, even the most junior people at your team that were previously doing the data entry themselves. So It's like AI is not perfect. Humans are not perfect. We need to learn how to treat it like anyone else on the team.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. It's been really great chatting with you, getting to know you and hearing your story and what things are going on at Campfire. Thanks so much for sharing your story with our audience today.
Thanks so much for having me, Adam. I'm really excited to be here today.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.